as Craig mentioned, you can't help but think where they were a year ago and where they now are, and what lies ahead. I mean, there are clearly players who aren't going to perform for Jose Mourinho on current evidence.
Well, the truth is, actually, the same group of players really weren't performing at the end either. In fact, ever since they've played in that Champions League final. You know, Pochettino struggled at the start of the year and he ended up getting the bullet because of it. And I don't think it's going to change because Heung-min Son and Lucas Moura, to me, are better they're better individuals. They do things on their own. You know, they're not particularly great, in my opinion, at linking together, and they certainly don't link enough with Harry Kane. And so previously, when Harry Kane had the likes of Dele Alli playing along with him, you know, Harry would come and Dele would get in the box, and then you had Christensen picking passes for Harry Kane and playing with them. He doesn't have that now. He's got either Lo Celso and Lamela as his number 10. Now, I'm sorry, they both work hard and they both try very hard, but they're not number 10s in any team, any proper team. And so when you've got Harry Kane not receiving a ball from his number 10, and you've got two guys beside him who really are more interested in doing stuff individually, then you wonder, why is there no cohesion? The fact is, they need to get themselves a player in the middle of the park that's going to connect everything, and particularly Harry Kane, because the longer this goes on, Harry Kane's going to get the white handkerchief out and say, I'm off, I can't stand any more of this.
Great, they've clearly got many talented players who've been playing way below their best for far too long, and yet they're not going to have any money to spend this summer. The whole situation with the stadium and obviously post-pandemic, it's not going to be new signings arriving, is it?
No, but you say many talented players, you know, I suppose in some people's eyes, maybe. But, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Aurier. I'm not a huge, and that's only me personally, I'm not a huge fan of Dyer. Davis isn't bad. Lo Celso isn't bad. I think Winks is okay. Moura is a flash in the pan with his pace. He'll do something brilliant and then you'll not see him and he'll just make mistakes. He's a very, very good player, Son, but he's under performing at the moment. Sissoko's a worker. Lamela is a fancy Dan when he comes off the bench. And Harry Kane's a world-class striker playing an average side. So I think that about sums it up for me. I've got to say, we've got two managers here who a lot of people are looking at. And I know Ancelotti has done a decent job since he's come in. But we have two managers here who a lot of people are looking at, and they're looking at other coaches around other leagues and saying, is this style going to work? And is it still relevant to today's footballers? And that is going to be the big question going forward, because we know what Everton do. They get Richarlison and they get Calvert-Lewin up front, and on their day they'll get it forward early and they'll use their pace and their power. That's a little bit old school. Now, if Everton have got funds, and that's the big if, Ancelotti might be able to change that, or he's going to have to change it himself with the way he plays. But we know Mourinho's unlikely to change. So the big question is not just the squads at these two clubs, but the managers, and can they get more out of what they've got without going out and bludgeoning the budget? And I think certainly from Tottenham's perspective, the answer at the moment is a huge no.
You just said it, Craig. Harry Kane, world-class player on an average team. Is it time to go?
Yes, because if I sit down with Mourinho and Daniel Levy, if I'm Harry Kane, and say, talk to me. Talk to me about where we're going to get better and how we're going to get better. How are we going to bridge that gap? There's a huge gap to the top two, in particular the top one. And how are we going to be able to do that to satisfy me as arguably, behind Lewandowski, one of the best, if not the backup best striker to Robert Lewandowski when fit, natural number 9. How the hell, Stevie, are they going to convince Harry Kane to stay at Tottenham Football Club unless he just doesn't want to go and says, no, I'm happy at Tottenham, I want to stay here? That's fine. If it's a personal decision, that's fine. If it's a football decision, in my opinion, Stevie, there's no choice, surely.
Stevie?
Well, It's 100% a personal choice, because Harry Kane knows how it works there. He knows Levy's not going to go. Well, number one, they're already saying they don't have money. Number two, even if and when they've had money, they haven't gone out and bought players. So this is 100% not a professional decision whatsoever, because if it's a professional decision, Harry Kane gets himself out of there as soon as possible before his head goes, before it really starts affecting him. So if Harry wants to be, he's one of our own for the rest of his life, then he will stay. And if he wants to win Premier Leagues or Champions Leagues or any of the big prizes, then he has to go. And he has it all in his hands. It really is down to him. Personal, stay. Yeah. Professional, get on your bike as soon as possible.
No, he needs to get out of there, I think, Adrian. And listen, if I was Gareth Southgate, I'm not quite as anti-English as Mr. Nicol there, but looking ahead as a.
Oh, not at all. Excuse me.
What?
I'm not at all biased towards my good friends, the English.
Well, listen, if I was Gareth Southgate, I'd be a touch worried, because here we have a year down the line to the Euros. He's got a super talented bunch of young players, particularly forward players, midfield to front, and he's got a striker who I think under Mourinho, and he can trot out all the stats he wants about the previous strikers that he's had and blah, 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 who is starting to look, and I'm sorry, Tottenham fans, but if you don't admit this, then you've got the blinkers on and you're pulling the wool down over your eyes. He's looking more demoralised by the game. And the more frustrating he gets...
Do you know, Craig?
What?
Do you remember his face after he scored that goal? I think it was West Ham at the end of the game. He ran 60 yards and scored. Now, we're saying he's a world-class centre-forward. He's a world-class football player. Have you ever seen a more relieved look on somebody's face when he scored that goal to make it 2-0, I think it was, against West Ham in the last minute? I mean, that tells you how he's feeling. When he is the happiest man alive for a few seconds because he scored the goal against West Ham, how frustrating must he feel?
It's no different, Adrian, for Aubameyang at Arsenal and Arsenal fans and Harry Kane at Tottenham and all the teams that are not doing particularly well, who have top players. No different. They're all getting asked the same question. How are you going to hang on to them? How are you going to hang on to your best players? How are you going to keep them there? How are you going to get a new contract for Aubameyang to help these kids? How can you convince him? How can you? And he's in his 30s. Harry Kane's in his prime. He's got the Euros to think about. He's got the next 5 or 6 years of his career to think about. You can't be superseded by somebody else in your position by just sitting tight and waiting for it to happen. So at this current juncture, I think, and on the playing squad alone, Tottenham Hotspur are not in a position, in my opinion, to convince Harry Kane that they're going to be giving him the platform he needs going forward to be successful in terms of trophies and be successful in terms of an individual. They've gone backwards. Yeah. Right? There's no doubt about it. They've gone backwards this year, and that's a huge worry.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.